That night was the first crack in the foundation. A small one, barely noticeable at the time, but the kind that spreads until the whole damn thing comes crashing down. If I had been paying attention, really paying attention, I would have seen it for what it was. It started with a party. Some event she had been looking forward to for weeks, something exclusive. Though I never understood why she cared so much. She came out of the bedroom wearing a dress that made my stomach turn. Not because it was just revealing. Lisa had always liked to dress up, and I never had a problem with that. But this was different. It wasn't her. Not the woman I married. It was too deliberate, too hungry. Like she was dressing for someone else. "Are you sure about that dress?" I asked, keeping my voice calm. She checked herself in the mirror like she hadn't even heard me. Then she turned, smiling in that slow, lazy way that used to make me weak, but now just felt like it was meant for someone else. "What's wrong with it?" I hesitated. I wasn't the kind of guy who told his wife what to wear. I never had been, but this didn't sit right. It's just, you know how guys at these things are. She rolled her eyes, already bored with the conversation. "Oh, come on, Adam. I'm not responsible for how other people look at me. That's not what I'm going," she said, grabbing her purse. "If you want to be insecure about it, that's your problem." And just like that, it was over. Like my opinion had never even mattered. Like I wasn't even part of the equation. I watched her walk out the door, and something in my gut twisted so hard I almost told her to wait. Almost. But I didn't. I didn't know it then, but that was the night I lost her. The thing is, she was never one to drink much. She liked control over herself, over situations, over people. But when she came home that night, she was a mess. Hair disheveled. Makeup smudged. The expensive perfume I bought her overpowered by the scent of alcohol and something else I couldn't place. She stumbled through the door at nearly 3 in the morning, laughing to herself before realizing I was still awake, waiting for her in the dim glow of the kitchen light. Her face twisted. "Oh, come on, don't start." I stared at her. "Where the hell have you been?" "The party ran late." I let my eyes drift to the clock. "By 5 hours?" She sighed dramatically, kicking off her heels like the conversation was exhausting her. I lost track of time. "Okay? I was having fun." "With who?" Something flickered in her expression. Not fear, not guilt. Annoyance. Like I was the one ruining her night. "With people, Adam." She snorted, shaking her head. "Jesus. You're embarrassing yourself." I should have let it go. I should have walked away, let her crawl into bed and sleep it off. But then I saw it. The tiniest detail, but the one that her dress was on backward. Not twisted, not pulled askew from dancing or drinking. Fully backward. The zipper, which should have been running down her spine, was in the front, haphazardly pulled up, like someone else had done it for her. The air in the room turned to ice. I felt my jaw tighten, my heart pounding against my ribs. "Fix your dress in the bathroom?" She blinked at me, then looked down. Her fingers brushed the fabric, as if she hadn't even realized. And then she smiled. Smiled. Like this was funny. "Oops," she said, shrugging, before turning away. That was the moment. The moment I knew. The moment I felt it, deep in my bones, that something had already shifted, and there was no going back. But I didn't say a word. Not then. Not yet. Because if I did, if I let myself crack open right then and there, I might never be able to stop. The next morning, she acted like nothing had happened. She woke up late, stretching in bed like she didn't have a care in the world, yawning as she checked her phone. I was already up, sitting at the kitchen table, staring at the cold cup of coffee I hadn't touched. She strolled in, wearing one of my shirts like it was some sweet little sign of affection. Like she hadn't come home at 3 in the morning with her dress on backward and someone else's scent clinging to her skin. I clenched my jaw so hard it hurt. "Morning," she murmured, brushing her lips against my cheek as she passed me. I barely felt it, She moved around the kitchen with the easy grace of someone completely unbothered. She poured herself coffee, leaned against the counter, checked her phone again, probably texting whoever the hell she had been with last night. I forced myself to stay calm, to act normal. You were out late. She barely looked up. Yeah. You never said where. That finally got her attention. Her eyes flicked to me, cautious but not guilty. Not in the way that mattered. With people, Adam? I told you. I didn't blink. Which people? She rolled her eyes, setting down her mug with a little too much force. God, are we still doing this? It was a party. I drank too much. I lost track of time. End of story. I leaned back in my chair, watching her. Your dress was on backward. Silence. Just for a second. Just a flicker of hesitation before she gave me a look so cold I almost flinched. So what? She said flatly. I laughed, but there was no humor in it. So what? That's all you have to say. What do you want me to say, Adam? She crossed her arms, her patience visibly thinning. That I was drunk? That I probably went to the bathroom and changed without thinking? I don't remember, okay? I was wasted. I studied her. The way she avoided my eyes. The way her fingers drummed against the counter, restless. You don't drink like that, I said quietly. She shrugged. I did last night. We stared at each other. The air between us was thick, suffocating. And then, just like that, she exhaled and softened. She moved closer, reaching for my hand, her expression shifting into something almost apologetic. I'm sorry, okay? She murmured, squeezing my fingers. I didn't mean to worry you. I just got carried away. It won't happen again. I wanted to believe her. I really did. So I swallowed down the doubts, ignored the screaming in the back of my head, and let her kiss me. That was my first mistake. The second was thinking she actually meant it. For a while, things went back to normal. Or at least, they looked like they did. Lisa was careful, I'll give her that. She smoothed over the tension with soft kisses and casual touches, slipping into my arms like nothing had ever happened. She laughed at my jokes, made plans for the weekend, sent texts with little heart emojis like she was the same woman I had married. And maybe I could have convinced myself it was all in my head. Maybe I wanted to believe her, if not for the phone. Her damn phone. Started small. She used to leave it on the counter, toss it onto the couch without thinking. Now it never left her side. Always face down. Always on silent. If I so much as glanced at it, she would pick it up and take it with her, like I was some stranger she didn't trust. One night, she got a text while we were watching a movie. I felt her stiffen beside me. Barely a flinch, but I caught it. She casually shifted, angling the screen away as she typed back a response. Something in my chest burned. Who's that? I asked, keeping my voice neutral. She didn't even look up. Just Anna, her best friend. The one she always used as an excuse. Call her, I said. That got her attention. She turned, brow furrowed. What? Call her. I shrugged. Put her on speaker. I want to say hi. For the first time I saw it, real hesitation. Just for a second, just a flicker, but it was there. Then, just as quickly, she rolled her eyes. Jesus, Adam. You're being ridiculous. I didn't move. Am I? Her fingers tightened around her phone. Yes, you are. And that was it. No fight, no real defense. She just stood up, took her phone, and walked out of the room. Not a single word. She didn't even try to make me believe her. That night, I waited until she fell asleep. Until her breathing evened out and the glow of her phone screen finally dimmed. Then, with my pulse pounding in my throat, I reached for it. Locked, of course. I stared at the screen, my hands clammy, my gut twisting. I had never done this before. I had never wanted to do this before. But I had to know. I took a deep breath and tried the first code that came to mind. My birthday. Nothing. Then hers. Still nothing. And then, without thinking, I entered the day of that damn party. The night she came home at 3 in the morning with her dress on backward. The phone unlocked. My stomach dropped. And then, before I could stop myself, I scrolled through her messages. And what I found, what I saw, made my whole body go cold that I stared at the screen, my fingers hovering over the glowing messages, my pulse hammering so hard I could feel it in my throat. There was no denying it now. No more excuses, no more little justifications I could tell myself to sleep at night. Lisa had been lying to me. The texts weren't from Anna. They weren't from anyone I recognized. Just a number with no name, but the messages told me everything I needed to know. Last night was insane. I can still taste you. I swallowed, my mouth suddenly dry. I scrolled up, my stomach twisting into something ugly. You looked so good at the party. I could barely keep my hands off you. Next time, stay longer. You know he doesn't deserve you. I gripped the phone so tight my knuckles ached. It wasn't just the words. It was the way they talked. The ease. The comfort. This wasn't a one-time thing. This wasn't some drunk mistake she regretted. This had been going on for weeks. Maybe longer. And then I saw it, the thing that made my vision go red. Picture. It wasn't explicit, but it didn't have to be. Lisa, sitting on someone's lap, her arm draped over their shoulders, laughing into their neck. The same dress from that night, the same carelessness in her body language. Like she wasn't married. Like she had never even thought about me. I felt something snap inside me. For a long time, I just sat there, the phone heavy in my hands. I don't know how long. Minutes. Hours. Everything blurred together. And then, finally, I made a decision. I put the phone back exactly where I found it. Then I lay down beside her, staring at the ceiling, my mind already working through what I had to do next. Lisa thought she was smart, thought she had me fooled. But she had no idea what was coming. I barely slept. My body was still, but my mind was a wildfire, burning through every moment, every memory, every detail I had ignored. The late nights, the extra work events, the sudden urge to dress differently, to go out more, to keep her phone glued to her side. How many times had she come home to me after being with him? How many times had she kissed me, smiled at me, played the role of the devoted wife while she was sneaking off with someone else? I wanted to wake her up right then. I wanted to shove the phone in her face, watch her try to talk her way out of it. But no, that was too easy. Lisa thought she had the upper hand, thought I was just some clueless husband too stupid to see what was right in front of him. I was going to let her think that for just a little longer. I forced myself to breathe, to let my heart slow, to let my face relax into something normal. When morning came, I got out of bed like it was any other day. Lisa was already in the kitchen, scrolling through her phone, sipping her coffee. The same phone that had unlocked with his night. The same phone that held all her secrets. She looked up at me and smiled. "Morning." I smiled back. "Morning." She had no idea. I kissed her on the cheek just to see if I could. Just to see if it would make me sick. It did. I sat down across from her, stirring my coffee, my fingers drumming against the table. She glanced at me. "You okay?" I nodded. "Yeah. Just thinking." "About what?" I shrugged. "Maybe we should do something this weekend. Just the two of us." Her smile faltered for a fraction of a second. Just a fraction. Then she recovered, tilting her head. "Really?" "Yeah. We haven't had a real date night in a while. Thought it'd be nice." She hesitated. I saw it. I felt it. The gears turning in her head, calculating. Trying to figure out if she could move things around, if she could find a way to keep up whatever the hell she had going on. Then she smiled. "That sounds great." I smiled back. And just like that, the trap was set. The rest of the week, I played my role perfectly. I was the loving husband, the man who trusted his wife, the guy who had no idea his marriage was rotting from the inside out. I watched her closely. Every time her phone buzzed, every time she smiled at a text and turned the screen away, every time she told me she was grabbing dinner with Anna or staying late for work. I nodded. I kissed her goodbye. I let her think she was getting away with it. But I was always one step ahead. I checked our shared location on my phone. She had no idea I had access. Every time she told me she was going somewhere, I made a mental note of where she actually was. And surprise, surprise, she was never where she claimed to be. Thursday night, she said she was at Anna's. Her location? A hotel downtown. Friday, she was staying late at the office. Her location? A restaurant across the city, one I'd never even heard her mention before. Saturday night, the night of our big date night, I followed her. She told me she had to run a quick errand before we met at the restaurant. She left the house at 5 p.m. Makeup perfect, hair done, wearing something new. Something she hadn't even shown me before. I waited exactly 5 minutes before getting in my car and pulling up her location. She was heading toward the same hotel from Thursday night. My grip on the wheel was tight, but my heart was steady. I already knew what I was going to do. I parked a block away, just close enough to see without being seen. And sure enough, there she was, walking through the glass doors, confidence in every step, not a single trace of hesitation. She didn't even check over her shoulder. She wasn't afraid of being caught. And that's what burned the most. I waited. 5 minutes. 10. 15. Then I got out of the car. I walked straight into that hotel, past the front desk, straight to the elevators. I already knew what floor she was on. I had checked the last time she was here. I hit the button. The doors slid open. I stepped inside, my pulse slow and controlled. By the time I reached the 10th floor, I knew exactly what I was going to say. The hallway was quiet. The air smelled of expensive carpet cleaner and betrayal. I walked down the hall, stopping in front of his room. Room 1027. Then, without a second of hesitation, I raised my fist and knocked. The silence stretched. A thick, suffocating pause, like the world itself was holding its breath. Then, movement. Footsteps. Slow. Hesitant. The door cracked open just an inch, just enough for me to see him. Tall. Smug. Shirtless. He had dark, tousled hair, the kind of good looks that probably got him through life without ever having to work too hard. His expression shifted the second he saw me, morphing from mild curiosity to something else entirely. Something like recognition. I didn't give him a chance to speak. "Lisa here?" I asked, calm as ever. A flicker of panic. A second of hesitation. That's all I needed. I pushed the door open and stepped inside. And there she was. Lisa. Sitting on the edge of the hotel bed, wrapped in a white robe, her hair slightly damp. The same hair I had kissed just hours ago. For a moment, nobody moved. Nobody spoke. Then Lisa's eyes went wide and she shot up from the bed like she had been burned. "Adam," I held up a hand. She stopped. Her guy, took a step forward. "Look, man, I don't think." I turned to him, my voice eerily steady. "Shut up." He shut up. Then I turned back to Lisa. I should have felt something. Fury. Heartbreak. Betrayal. But standing there, looking at her in that stupid hotel robe, all I felt was clarity. Lisa wasn't some great mystery anymore. She wasn't the woman I had spent years loving, trying to understand, trying to hold on to. She was just a liar. Just another person who took and never thought about the damage left behind. She took a shaky breath. "Adam, I can explain," I laughed. Actually laughed. And that seemed to throw her off more than anything. "Explain?" I echoed. "What exactly do you think you can explain?" She hesitated, her lips pressing into a tight line, her mind scrambling for an excuse. I let her squirm. Her affair shifted uncomfortably. "Maybe we should all just take a step back." I turned to him again, my eyes cold. "You knew she was married." His mouth opened, then closed. Lisa let out a frustrated breath. "Adam, just let me talk." "No," I cut her off, my voice sharp. "You had plenty of chances to talk. You had months to talk. Instead, you came home to me, kissed me, smiled in my face while sneaking off to this." I gestured to the room, the bed, him. Her mouth opened, but I wasn't finished. "You lied to me. Over and over. And you know what? I probably would have believed you for a little while longer. I probably would have let myself keep making excuses for you, because that's what you do. Isn't it? You make people doubt themselves. You make me doubt myself." A flicker of something in her eyes. Not guilt. Not remorse. Annoyance. Like she was mad she had gotten caught. Like I was the problem. I let out a slow breath, feeling lighter than I had in weeks. "I'm done," I said simply. Lisa took a step forward. "Adam?" "No," I stepped back. "I'm done. You don't get to talk your way out of this. You don't get to twist things around and make me feel crazy for seeing exactly what's in front of me." I turned toward the door. Her voice came sharp behind me. What, you're just gonna leave? I glanced back, met her eyes. Then I smiled. Yes. And then I walked out. I didn't slam the door. I didn't shout or make a scene. I just walked away, listening to her stunned silence behind me. And for the first time in a long, long time, I felt free. The drive home was quiet. Too quiet. Like the whole world had pressed pause, waiting to see what I would do next. I gripped the wheel, my mind racing, replaying every second of that hotel room. The way Lisa looked at me. The way she didn't look guilty. The way she stood there, robe tied lazily around her waist, eyes sharp and calculating, already trying to figure out her next move. She wasn't sorry. She never was. I pulled into the driveway, the house looking exactly the same as I had left it. But now it felt different. It wasn't her home anymore. It was just a place I had been living with a stranger. I walked inside, shut the door behind me, and just stood there. The silence stretched. Then slowly, I exhaled. I had two choices. I could wait. Sit on the couch like some idiot, give Lisa the chance to come home, cry, make excuses, promise she'd never do it again. Or I could make sure she had nothing left to come home to. The decision wasn't even hard. I moved quickly, fueled by something steady and ice cold. Lisa always thought she was smarter than me. She thought she had me wrapped around her finger, that I'd be too weak to ever walk away. She had no idea who she was dealing with. I grabbed a duffel bag and started packing. Not my things. Hers. Every designer dress, every expensive shoe, every perfume bottle she had scattered around the house, I shoved them into the bag without care. Then I went to the bathroom. Makeup, skincare, hair products. All of it tossed into the bag. I grabbed her laptop, her work bag, her favorite jewelry, and then, finally, her phone charger. Because I wanted her to feel it. I wanted her to walk in and realize all at once that she had nothing left here. I threw the duffel bag onto the front porch, right next to the welcome mat she picked out. Then I locked the door. And I waited. Lisa didn't come home right away. Of course she didn't. She probably thought I was sitting in the dark, waiting for her, heartbroken and desperate to talk. She thought she had time. By the time she finally pulled into the driveway, it was nearly midnight. I watched from the window as she stepped out of her car, looking up at the house like she was expecting something. An argument, a fight, a second chance. Instead, she saw the duffel bag. I saw her freeze. She took a slow step forward, reaching down, unzipping the bag. I didn't have to see her face to know what she was feeling. She turned toward the door, tried the handle, locked. Her head snapped up. And then, finally, she saw me, standing in the window, watching. Her mouth opened, furious, like she was about to scream. But I didn't give her the chance. I reached over and shut off the porch light, leaving her standing there, alone in the dark. I didn't check the window again. I didn't need to. Lisa banged on the door for a while. First, just knocking, like she thought I was going to let her in if she asked nicely. Then louder. Angrier. I sat on the couch, perfectly still, my face blank as the sound echoed through the house. Adam, she called, voice sharp, demanding. Open the door. I didn't move. She banged harder. Are you serious right now? I let the silence stretch, let her feel it. And then, finally, her voice changed, softened. Baby, come on, she tried, her tone dipping into something sweeter. You're overreacting. I laughed under my breath. Overreacting, right? I heard the duffel bag shift, the sound of zippers, fabric rustling. She was going through it again, probably realizing I had taken everything. Then the real panic set in. She banged on the door one last time, furious. I live here, Adam. You can't just lock me out. Finally, I stood, walked over, opened the door just an inch, just enough to see her standing there, arms crossed, eyes dark with frustration. I held up the house key. Then, right in front of her, I dropped it. Her mouth opened. What? You don't live here anymore? I said flatly. Lisa stared at me like I had slapped her, like she couldn't believe I was actually doing this. She still thought she was in control, still thought she could weasel her way back inside, twist things around, make me doubt myself. I watched as she tried to find an angle. "Adam," she said, her voice softer, almost hurt. "It's me." I didn't blink. "I know," I said. Then I shut the door in her face. I heard her curse, heard her footsteps stomp away, but I didn't watch. I didn't need to. The second she was gone, the house felt different. Lighter, freer. And for the first time in 6 years, I really knew, I had done the right thing. But what I didn't know, what I couldn't have known, was that this wasn't the end. Lisa wasn't done. Not by a long shot. 6 years. That's how long it took for her to come back. 6 years of silence. 6 years of nothing. I moved on. Not right away, not easily, but I did. I sold the house, got a new job, built a life that had nothing to do with her. She was just a bad memory, a mistake I had made and learned from. Until the night she showed up at my door. It was late. Almost midnight. The knock was soft. Hesitant. Not like before. I almost didn't answer. But something in my gut told me I needed to. I opened the door and there she was. Lisa. Looking older, thinner, tired in a way she never had before. And next to her, gripping her hand, was a little boy. My stomach turned to ice. We stared at each other, neither of us speaking, the weight of the past pressing down like a physical thing. Then Lisa licked her lips, shifting her weight. "Adam," she said quietly. "I need to talk to you." I didn't move. Didn't breathe. My eyes dropped to the kid. Dark hair. Big eyes. Small, unsure, holding on to Lisa like he didn't know what was going on. My pulse pounded in my ears. I looked at her again, my voice barely above a whisper. "Lisa." My throat was dry. "Whose kid is that?" She inhaled sharply. Looked away. Then, barely above a whisper, "Yours." The world tilted. I felt my hands clench, my heartbeat a slow, heavy pound in my chest. "No," I said, shaking my head, taking a step back. "No way." She looked at me, pleading. "Adam, please, you're lying." My voice was cold. "Like you always do." She shook her head, swallowing hard. "I should have told you." "I know." But I laughed. A hollow, bitter sound. "You should have told me?" My voice rose. "You should have told me I had a kid? That you were pregnant when I kicked you out?" She flinched. The boy looked up at her, confused. I took a sharp breath, forcing myself to focus. "Why now?" I demanded. "Why come back now?" Lisa hesitated. Then finally she sighed, eyes shining. "Because I need your help." And just like that, I realized our love story hadn't just ended. It had turned into a cheating story. And now it was about to become something worse.